All right, great. We're just going to give everyone a couple minutes to join here, and we'll start at 2, 3 after. Greg, Mike, how you guys doing today?
Good. How about you, Dan?
Hey, not bad.
You guys getting nice weather up there?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, nice day. It's supposed to be a nice weekend. We had some rain. I think it was yesterday all day, but it's
Yeah,
cleared
same
up
down here. Yeah,
it's
I'm
been
in
nice
Virginia,
out.
so we've got probably about the similar weather to what you guys have. I'm in Northern Virginia, but did you have to deal with the cicadas this year? We had them awful. It was down here. I don't know if it was up in your patch or not.
I was
Yeah.
in Princeton, New Jersey last week. It was like a carpet of dead ones at this one place, and you could still see them flying around everywhere. And it was like, I don't understand how you deal with this. This is crazy.
Yeah, that's how it was here, and they're finally starting to die down. You couldn't hold a conversation outside about a week ago. It was so loud. They were just everywhere. I'm glad it's only every 17 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, they were bad up this way. Really bad in Delaware too.
Yeah, my house has been fine. It's weird. And I'm in Chester County, southern Chester County. It's been normal.
There you go.
You're lucky. You're in one of those pockets.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Where you at? Where you at, Greg, in Chester County? Whereabouts?
Avondale.
That's right. Yeah, we've talked about that before. Okay. I'm out here by the office in downtown.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just give another minute here. We'll jump in.
All righty.
Okay, great. I think we're good. Thank you everyone for joining us today on behalf of Profound Technologies and our partners Barco, SK Mac. Welcome to another Technology Partner Roundtable. Go to the next slide.
Yep.
Today we'll be talking about the Barco ClickShare and how the solution is redefining the collaboration space. Quick agenda for the day. I'll start by kicking off with speaker intros and an overview of Profound before turning over to Mike to dive into the content. Mike, you want to go back one slide?
Yep, absolutely. Sorry, skipped ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So on this slide here, you'll see a picture of the Barco ClickShare there in the middle. For those not familiar, the Barco USB button, you plug it in your laptop, you press the button, and your laptop screen will now be on the TVs in the room. Very simple solution to use, no additional wires needed. Some additional housekeeping. We're slated to run about 45 minutes, maybe a little more or less, depending on questions that roll in. Any gamblers out there, I think you're safe to take the under on that, and we'll be able to give some time back to your day. All attendees will be muted and remain muted for the duration of the webinar. So if you do have any questions throughout, please enter them in the Q&A. I'll do my best to check that throughout and get any answers for you as we go. The webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be available and emailed to all attendees. Lastly, we're going to have a raffle of one Barco ClickShare unit for one lucky attendee that stays on with us to the end. You got to stay on to the end to win. Next slide. So today's host, starting with myself, Dan Shadow, account exec here at Profound, been here 3 years. Although for the past couple of months, I've been telling people I've been here 4 years. And then after checking LinkedIn yesterday, it turns out it's only been 3. So sorry about that. Time flies when you're having fun. I work with existing customers and partners out of our Philly office. Next, we'll have Mike, and then we'll go to Greg for a brief intro. Go ahead, Mike.
Awesome, thanks, Dan. So I'm Mike Morbetto. I'm Business Development Manager for Barco. I've been in the Pro AV industry for well over 20 years. I've been with Barco a little over 3, I think, Dan. I'll have to check LinkedIn to make sure. But yeah, I've worked as a manufacturer's rep. Actually, I used to work with Greg at SK Mac before joining Barco, and I've been with a system integrator like Profound for many years as well. So I kind of know what those guys are dealing with day to day, and hopefully we can serve everybody best at the end user level and the dealer partner level here at Barco. Greg?
Yeah, hi, I'm Greg Geiser. I'm with SK Mac, a manufacturer's representative firm, and we kind of work in between guys like Mike and guys like Dan. We help connect the manufacturers that we work for to the integrators that are specifying and helping their end customers develop solutions for their spaces. So besides Barco, we really specialize in a lot of audio solutions as well. So I can Dan can take it back and we can get rolling.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mike. So most of you know Profound and that we've been doing AV integration nationwide for customers in the commercial space, high-end residential and government space for over 21 years now. So yes, Profound can now legally drink. And some of our specific services are listed here. I bolded VC conferencing integration because we're very busy right now working with customers that are planning their return to the office and how they're going to integrate Zoom, Teams, WebEx, all these various platforms into their meeting rooms. So if your company or customers are working through this and need help, please give us a call. Next slide. So next up, some of my personal favorite family vacation spots, favorite brands, and some of my close personal friends. What kids don't love running up and down the halls of the White House and Pentagon while eating Hershey's chocolate with Oprah and Ellen, right? No, I'm just joking. These are some of our government, commercial, and residential customers, just to show a few.
Awesome.
Next slide. And some case studies. Just want to share a few where Barco has been a great fit. The training room in Philly, large multi-purpose room. They had the typical HDMI at the podium for a hard connection at the front of the room. But if someone wanted to share throughout the room with the tables constantly moving, the Barco gave them the perfect wireless solution to fit the changing table layout that they had in that space. And they liked it so much, they decided to add a Barco unit to their marketing suite as well, where they had all their marketing desks all around the outside of the room. And they had to go up previously, connect to the display, and waste a lot of time in doing that. So the Barco saved them time. It was easier for the team to connect quickly, throw their content up on the display in the marketing suite. And then next, the executive suite up in NYC. Again, it was an older building, so running cables under the floor was tough. They didn't want wires through the room, floor tracking. The aesthetics of the room were very important. So the ClickShare was a great addition to the room, giving the execs the ability to easily share from anywhere in the room without any visible wires. And then lastly, the classroom at the aquarium. Again, this was a multi-purpose room, so not easy to run wires in that space, and the ClickShare was a no-brainer for the classroom. So yes, Barco is a great fit for meeting rooms of all sizes, huddle rooms up to executive board rooms, but they're also great for rooms I highlighted here, training rooms, marketing suites, executive suites, classrooms, you name it. It has many applications. And the aquarium now is looking to upgrade to the new ClickShare conferencing unit. And that's a perfect segue. Thank you, Mike, for me to turn it over to you, talk more about Barco and the new ClickShare conferencing solution. Go ahead, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. So briefly, a little bit about Barco. I find it's funny. Some people have heard of ClickShare. That's one of our most famous products. It's been out for 6+ years. And some people have heard of Barco from our Pro AV background. We've done large venue projection, video walls, all sorts of solutions for command and control centers and things like that. And I always like to use Barco and ClickShare together because sometimes people don't know ClickShare is a Barco product or vice versa. So we are all one company. We're based out of Belgium, and we're have presence in over 90 countries around the world with over 3,500 employees. So we're one of the market leaders in Pro AV solutions. And interestingly, before I joined, I didn't even know, because I've always been a Pro AV focused professional, I didn't know Barco has two other divisions. We also are the market leader in high-grade medical displays and digital cinema. So we do all the IMAX projectors and the majority of digital cinemas around the world. So when it comes to really high quality video, whether it's for mission critical things like reading remote mammography and x-rays in operating suites and medical situations, to a director needing their film to look the best on IMAX, that's where Barco shines. And ClickShare is what we're going to talk about today, and specifically ClickShare Conference, which is our new addition to that portfolio. So ClickShare, as I mentioned, has been around for over 6 years. It's the market leader in wireless presentation solutions. So like Dan alluded to earlier, and you can see the devices here, we have a couple of different hardware devices that come with the ClickShare package. The square units that you see there in the middle of the picture are actually the receiver device. So that would sit generally behind your display. Could also be in an AV rack connected to a switcher or something, but most of the time they're very small and they can just tuck neatly right behind a wall-mounted LCD TV or other kind of display. And then the beauty of it is there's no additional wires that are needed coming out to the room. So as people want to present content from their personal devices, whether it's a laptop, PC or Mac, or we even have ways to present from your other devices like iOS and Android, it's really, really simple and completely wireless. So if you're using a laptop, you literally plug in this USB button. So it connects in with a USB port, which is universal, works on PCs and Macs, and any computer that's out there is going to have USB on it. You plug the button in, and within 7 seconds, the little LED ring on it is going to light up and say you're ready to share, and you click the button and you're on screen. No additional wiring, no software to install, so super simple. That's been the ClickShare solution for the past many number of years. And about a year ago, we came out with an addition to the line called ClickShare Conference. And the thing that Conference is solving is making it just as easy to do video conferencing on a laptop as it is to present. And the real challenge there is that in most rooms, you're going to want to use your own device, and we're going to get into that a little bit more in this discussion. You're going to be more comfortable using your own laptop, but that really precludes you from using a nicer camera and audio system that would be installed in a conference room or boardroom or huddle room or anything else. When people get on Zoom or WebEx or Teams or anything else and want to do a video meeting, they typically are limited to the small camera that's built into their laptop and the audio that's built into their laptop, or using a headset or something like I have here. So ClickShare Conference solves that problem of being able to connect to room-based peripherals with your personal device. So the timing of this was actually interesting because ClickShare Conference was released last April. And what else happened last April was right about when COVID started to get bad here in the US. So at first we thought the timing was terrible because, you know, everybody was working from home all of a sudden. But we realized that in looking at a lot of studies, we do a lot of marketing research and work with such companies as Wainwright and Deloitte and lots of other consulting firms to try to get data on where Fortune 500 and government customers and a lot of our other market base is going. And it was very interesting in polling all of these CFOs and CEOs. The one thing that really led digital transformation was what happened last year with COVID, because all of a sudden, every meeting pretty much had to have video, which would have been unheard of a year ago or 2 years ago before all this started. I mean, if you went to the chief technology officer of a large Fortune company and said, you know, those meeting rooms that you have all throughout your facility, I'm going to need all of them to be video capable by the end of the month, people's heads would have exploded. There was no way to do that in the old days when you had to use hardware-based codecs like a Polycom or a Cisco that cost $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 per room. You'd typically have one video conferencing room on each floor or something like that, right? Well, what happened with COVID and everybody working from home was it made it much, much more difficult to meet and collaborate in person until we could get everybody on video. So this led to the popularity of software-based codecs such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams and WebEx. In fact, if you look at the quote at the bottom of this slide, the CEO of Microsoft said right about when COVID was at its peak last summer that he witnessed 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months. Everybody had to accelerate and fast track and get their meetings set up for video. What we're finding now is that it's going to be more of a hybrid model working forward. You keep hearing about this hybrid workplace with all the top industry experts, and it's really kind of what we see as the wave of the future, where yes, there are advantages to working from home, and you do have a lot of people that are going to still want to work from home some of the time, but there are also cons, and you really need to have people back at the office at least part of the time, or certainly certain types of workers and people. Especially, I deal a lot with government projects, and in the government, you have certain rooms that are more secure, that are already set up with different types of networking or different types of technology that really wouldn't be practical to have people meet in those types of environments from home. But typically, even in the government sector, you're going to see some of the participants in these meetings are going to be working from home. So now suddenly you have to connect people that are on-prem in the office to people that are working from home in an easy to use way. So this is kind of an eye chart. I'm not going to read the whole slide. We're going to make all these slides available to everybody afterwards, so you can feel free to look through this more. But basically, the takeaway from this is there are downsides from working from home full-time. And when you ask people, most people want to get back to the office at least part of the week. So that's what this talks about. 85% when you poll people want a combination of working from home and working from the office. That seems to be the ideal fit right now. Time will tell where that goes in the future, but really we need to understand that this is a real market need where people are finding, I get calls every day about how do I make my huddle room into a video room easily. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was realize that people, when we ask and poll people, they want to use their laptop to run the meeting. That's the easiest way to do it. You don't want to walk into a meeting room, especially as a guest or somebody that's just getting back to the office, and use a system that you've never used before. It's uncomfortable if you're presenting in front of a large group. You want to use the tools that are familiar to you. So a lot of meetings now are more short, informal. It might be kind of a let's grab 15 minutes and talk about this. But again, if you have somebody working from home, it's a lot more beneficial and you feel a lot more connected if you can connect to them on audio and video instead of just picking up a cell phone and calling them that way. So we call it bring your own meeting, which basically means run the meeting from your personal device that you're comfortable with. And that's what, when we poll people, we find out is 56% of people prefer to use their own laptop to run the meeting. You notice that only 19% of people actually want to use an in-room system. It's not used every day. It's not as familiar to them. It's expensive to maintain and upkeep and buy warranty support for. And so a lot of these platform-based, what we call UC, universal communication tools like Zoom and WebEx and Teams are really, really becoming popular in the workplace. One of the things that Barco wanted to do was be really flexible when we developed this solution. We didn't want to be married to one particular type of technology, one type of USB camera, one type of audio system to connect people in the room, even one platform. Because who knows where in 5 years this is going to go, and if Teams is going to dominate or Zoom is going to dominate. They're two of the big players right now, but we're seeing other players that are coming up as well. I have a meeting tomorrow that's on WebEx. I think in every day I probably have 2 or 3 different platforms that I have to do meetings with, and I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this have encountered the same type of experience where you might jump from one meeting to another. It really depends on who you're talking to, and you want to be flexible with your clients, with your coworkers, and you want to let them use what they're comfortable with. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is deciding on a platform, and a lot of organizations are still figuring that out. So the advantages to bringing your own meeting, BYOM, are you can use the tools that you know and trust. The data is already on your laptop. Your presentation is going to already be there. It's going to be the latest version. Those slides that you worked on the hotel room last night to perfect, they're going to be right there on your laptop and ready to go. And it's a user experience that you already know. So what if it was as simple as bringing your laptop into the meeting room, plugging in one of these buttons, and connecting to a professional camera and audio system? That's what we offer with ClickShare Conference. So we have 3 different models. The original ClickShare, what we're now calling ClickShare Present, is not going away. So if you have a use case where you don't need to do any video conferencing in a particular room, but you just want the flexibility Dan talked about in the intro of being able to share your content wirelessly, whether it's from a laptop or an Android or iOS device, we still have ClickShare Present products. They're a little bit less expensive, and they don't do this interactive sharing of USB peripherals like cameras and audio systems. So we give you the flexibility to choose whichever you need, but we're finding that most people now are changing their orders and changing their specs to the CX line, the ClickShare Conference line, to get that added flexibility of making the room video and audio capable, either now or in the future. So there's 3 different models, the CX20, the CX30, and the CX50. They differ a little bit. I think we're going to get into it a little bit more towards the end, the specifics, and might be some of the questions that come up about what are the differences, but I'll highlight a real quick view right now, which is that the CX20 comes with 1 button to share. So that's a USB-C button. You plug it into your laptop. It'll work on a Mac or a PC, and you click to share, and you're also able to access any USB camera and USB audio system that's connected into the ClickShare base station device. That's true of all 3 of these models. So normally in a room, let's take, for example, I'm using right now a Logitech Meetup, which is a sound bar that's about the width of my 27-inch monitor. That's the camera that you're hearing, that you're seeing me on right now. And it is normally designed to plug in USB to a laptop or another computer in the room. The issue with something like that, it's a great peripheral, and we're alliance partners with Logitech, but we're also alliance partners with many other peripheral manufacturers. So we like to stay agnostic when it comes to which brands work best. It really depends on the room situation. But the point here is any of them that use a USB connection normally have to connect to one computer. So they're normally, in the old way, married to a computer that would live in the room. Maybe you have an AV rack in the credenza in the front of the room or something like that, and you put a PC in the room and you connect your USB sound system and your USB camera to that, and then tell everybody that comes into the room that's what you use for video conferencing. Well, as I've already talked about, that's not a comfortable experience for most people. So the flexibility we give you is you don't plug the camera and the audio into the computer anymore. You plug it into the back of the ClickShare unit that's behind the display. So all the wiring is really simple and neat. Generally, the camera is going to be right above or below or by the side of the display. A lot of these USB peripherals have the sound system built in, so it'll be like a sound bar, and they'll have speakers and mic built into them as well, or you can use a separate sound system with USB, and they simply plug into the back of the ClickShare with a USB cable, and now anybody that walks into the room that wants to present plugs this button in, and when they fire up Zoom or Teams or any other UC client, they're going to have a choice in the pull down where you select your camera of the one that's built into their laptop or the room audio system and the room video system. You select it once, and then most of the platforms remember that. So in the future, when you walk back into that room, you use it again, you don't even have to make that selection. It's going to remember that you want the high-grade professional camera and audio that's built into the room. The CX30 takes that a step further by giving you 2 buttons instead of 1, so 2 people can present or be the host of the call at the same time. And you actually, with the CX30 and the CX50, have the ability to show, if you're doing a presentation, you can show split screen side by side 2 people at the same time. So it'll take any standard television or professional display monitor and sort of make it a picture-in-picture or picture-beside-picture device, so you can actually show 2 people's computers at the same time. It's very easy for one person to take over if you don't want to have that split screen. All I do is press and click and hold my button for 5 seconds, and then I take over full screen. So extremely simple for people to use. We find most times people don't even need a user manual or anything left behind in the room because it's so simple to just plug it in and click the button. But of course, we do have quick guides and all of that available, as well as YouTube videos on how to operate all this and get up and running quickly. The 30 also gives you the ability to be interactive. So if you happen to have a touch display at the front of the room, then you can connect that and use that as well from your laptop. So you can actually run your presentation from the touch screen at the front of the room. And again, I don't have to have any wires going back to the table connecting to the to my personal device. They're just connected to the ClickShare base station. And then the 50 adds another element, which is we have an HDMI input on the back. So that's great for auxiliary sources. So if you do have some sort of legacy hardware video conferencing codec in the room, or a digital signage player, or even a room computer, or let's say somebody has a Mac that they want to use because they're doing a certain CAD program or something and Macs work better, you can have that connected in through the CX50's auxiliary input. And when nobody's sharing from their button, that source will be on screen, and then when somebody starts to share or present, they take over. So it eliminates the need sometimes for a video switcher or switching multiple inputs on a computer. Makes it just super simple, again, by just plugging in the button and clicking.
Hey, Mike.
So,
hey, Mike,
yeah.
real quick, can you go back to that last slide? I had a couple questions come in.
Absolutely, Dan. Sure.
Some you answered.
Okay.
One of the questions was about the ClickShare button will work with the USB-C to A adapter for laptop that
Yeah.
don't have a USB-C connection.
Absolutely, that's a great question. Yes, the new buttons with the new CX models are all USB-C, but they will work with any USB-C to A adapter. So that's a super simple solution. I recommend that people keep one in each conference room and just use that. But yes, and the other thing I didn't touch on yet is you also don't even have to use the button. The button is nice because you don't have to install any software and you plug it in and click it and you're on screen. But you notice next to the CX20 button on the slide there, we actually have a little software app as well. So it looks like a virtual button. And if you install that software on your laptop, then you can actually run the meeting and do the presentations without even plugging in a button at all. You can just use our app instead. Does that answer that question?
It does, yeah. And then one more,
Okay.
they were just asking with the CX models, what are some of the other new features that they maybe should be aware of?
Sure, absolutely. One of the cool things about Barco I love working here is that we do quarterly updates. So we commit to coming out at least 4 times a year with firmware and software updates for these devices. And we don't just look at that as an opportunity to sort of fix things or validate new peripherals that come out on the market, like a new soundbar or a new camera. We certainly do all of that, but we also tend to add features. And it's really cool working for a company that can unlock new potential to devices people have already invested in. And we don't charge any extra for these firmware or software updates. There's no ongoing recurring cost. Like a lot of times with hardware codecs, you used to have to buy every year maintenance and warranty coverage in order to get updates. So for example, we're adding the ability later this month, we're coming out with a new app that can actually do this USB peripheral sharing through the app instead of just through the button. It used to be you could just do presentations on our app and not actually share the camera and mic. Now we've come out with a version of the app that's due to be released at the end of this month that will enable that feature. A lot of times in these COVID times or post-COVID, sometimes people don't want to handle devices and pass them around from multiple people. So we give you the ability, if you're able to just download the app and present that way if that's what you're more comfortable with. Also, we're adding digital signage. So basic signage, if you want to have backgrounds that are not static, that are running when nobody's sharing, you can have a slideshow that's running on there. So it can become a basic digital signage player as well. So things like that we add as features as our engineers come up with new ways to make the system work.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure, cool. So here's a picture of an example of a room where you definitely would want to use room audio and room video. In this case, you can see above the large display, there's a pan tilt zoom camera, and then there's a like a soundbar speaker. Again, that would be limited to one computer in the room if it weren't for ClickShare Conference. But now with ClickShare Conference, you can just plug those devices right into the back of the ClickShare, and now anybody that's using the ClickShare Conference in the room has access to that camera and that audio system. So everything's going to sound and work better. I also wanted to mention real quickly, since I do a lot of government projects, that I'm proud to say these are TAA compatible. Most, if not all, other devices that are on the market in this space are made in China. And if you're not familiar with TAA, it's the Trade Agreements Act. So a lot of government and sort of pseudo-government purchases, like large contractors, your Lockheeds and Boeings and people like that, if they're building out rooms for the government or they're funded by the government, they're going to need to buy TAA compliant hardware. And that eliminates some of the concerns that the government has about spyware being on things, other things that are made in China. Even the tariffs that we were dealing with a year or two ago, we're protected from all of that because our devices are made in Taiwan and Belgium and the US instead of made in China. So we have a couple of really older ClickShare models that are going to be going away soon that aren't TAA compliant, but everything that's come out in the last year and a half is TAA and should be moving forward as well.
Hey, Mike,
So
another question came in.
Yeah, sure,
real
Dan.
quick. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
So I think I know the answer to this, but it's probably a good question for everyone to kind of hear the answer to. They were asking with the USB-A buttons, the older ClickShare CSE models, is there a way to upgrade them to get the wireless conferencing or not?
Unfortunately not, because the hardware, the base is so different. We have so much more horsepower running in there to allow us to share the camera and audio wirelessly. We can't upgrade the older ClickShare models to ClickShare Conference capable. What you can do, we still support the older models for presentation sharing, and you can always get extra buttons too. So if people do need extra buttons, we make the older version and the newer version available. But they are 2 different buttons. This one is the newer one, and you can see it has a second little button on here as well. well, which is for some additional features like you can click this and just share a certain window instead of sharing your whole screen, or share a certain application, things like that. So it's different hardware. So unfortunately, we don't have an upgrade path for the old one, but we do still fully support it for presentation use.
Right. Thanks, Mike.
Sure. So very simple workflow to bring your own meeting. You walk in the room, you plug in the button, and you join the call. The app I was talking about that we have now even has all kinds of new features, like it can hook into an Outlook calendar. So it'll actually pop up and tell you, knows which meeting room you're in because of proximity sensing, and it knows what your calendar is because it's connected to your Outlook calendar. And it'll say, are you ready for the next meeting? And if you click to join, it'll also connect to your call. Which is really cool. And again, that's platform agnostic, so it doesn't matter if you're going to run Zooms or Team or any of the other popular ones. We either have them all working now or we're getting them all working in firmware updates. So you can add all those other cool features as well. So that goes into what I was just talking about, which is we really want to be what we call triple agnostic, any laptop, any conferencing platform, any peripheral. So we don't want to have you be married to one particular platform or one particular type of device. It's really what works best for your use case and your room. With that being said, with the peripherals, USB, everything is different depending on how the manufacturer implements it. So we like to test and validate everything. And we have on another slide, I have a link here where we actually have a web page you can go to, and you can look at, we have over 200 devices now that we've already tested that we know work with ClickShare Conference. If it's standard USB implementation, it should just work. But we always like to test to be sure, because occasionally people will do things a little bit differently with the way they communicate USB. But basically, we're replicating, plugging it into a laptop directly. So it really shouldn't be any different. There's no software you need to run or anything to do any translation. It's just as if you were plugging it straight into your laptop. So when you want to share, I've already been through this, so I'll go through this real quick. You're just going to share your screen to the meeting room display. You're going to choose the room sound system and the room camera if that's what you want to use, and that's the whole point of this device. So that's probably what you'd want to use in any kind of room beyond just a single person meeting. And it's really, really quick. Within 7 seconds or less, the ring changes color to light up white and indicate you're ready to go. You click on it and you're on screen and you're using those devices. And this goes into just the difference between using computer AV that's built in versus using the ability to open things up to use more professional grade peripherals. So obviously using the camera that's built into your laptop would be fine for a single person meeting, but suddenly when you have to have more people huddle around, you've got echo issues, limited audio, no social distancing, which is a big thing nowadays. Hopefully won't be the case here soon. But we don't want people all huddled around a single laptop screen. So we give you the ability to use that more professional grade room audio and video and the larger screen that's built into the room so you can have your meeting in a more comfortable way. And same thing with the audio, you're going to get much, much better quality if you use any of these USB sound system devices versus what's built into your laptop. And we give you the ability to do that with just one click. And cameras as well. I used to work for a camera manufacturer, and I know that there are a lot of really high quality cameras that are out there now that just plug in simply with a USB cable. So you can get wide view of the room. Some of them have ultra wide settings. Some of them will even track a presenter or use voice tracking and allow you to switch between. Again, we're not a camera manufacturer. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to go with best in breed technology that's already out there. And the beauty of this system is if it plugs in USB to your laptop, it should plug in USB to the ClickShare and just work. The other advantage would be getting rid of the cord. So again, you don't want to have all these cables out in the middle of your meeting room. You don't want to pass around an HDMI cable from presenter to presenter after lunch and have everybody be handling all the equipment that's in the middle of the room. It's very difficult to extend USB out to a table, especially if you end up with higher bandwidth USB connections for video and audio. You run into limitations, and sometimes there are the expense of using like a transmitter and receiver to extend a USB camera out to the table so people can simply plug it into their laptop. That ends up being as expensive or more than the ClickShare device. And certainly retrofitting a room for new cables, if you have to do things like core drills and conduit and stuff like that, that's much, much more expensive than just plugging this in and implementing it.
Nice. And then Mike, real quick, a couple more questions are rolling in. The first one, how many USB ports are on the back of the CX30? They're saying a lot of peripherals now are USB-A.
Right. We have USB-A and C ports on the CXs, so you can plug in. There's, I believe, there's two at USB-As, and then there's a USB-C. So you have the ability to plug in most of the peripherals. You're right. Whoever asked that are USB-A as what still. So yeah, that's no problem. You don't even need to get adapters to plug those peripherals in.
Perfect. Thank you. And then one more. Do you see any issues with interference from other devices in the room?
That's a good question. We use 802.11 wireless, so standard Wi-Fi, and we have the ability when you set the device up to choose your channel. You can use either the 2.4 or the 5 gigahertz. We recommend that the installer or end user run a scan just to see what other devices are in the area. But then you can pick a custom channel that's not being used very much, and you can also set different radio strength. So if you have, we have some customers that have hundreds of these deployed on several floors, and there's a way to make that work just fine. You turn down the radio to the lower setting. If you're in a huddle room or something, you don't really need the medium or large radio setting unless you're in a very large space like an auditorium. So it's very easy to keep them from interfering with each other. And that's all the ad hoc networking way. So that's out of the box. When you just plug it in, it makes its own network. But we also have the ability, if the customer allows, to actually network these to your own in-house network. So you can turn off our Wi-Fi radios completely and use your in-house repeaters and just make these devices on your network. Again, that goes into the flexibility of the ClickShare. We let you do it either way. So if you want to network it, you can. You don't have to. It makes its own network that doesn't touch yours if that's the way you want to use it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. And on this slide, I mentioned at the bottom, I have a link, and again, we'll send these out afterwards, but there's a link to our tested USB peripherals. We're constantly updating that and testing new things. We work really well with other manufacturers. So for example, there was one brand of USB soundbar that came out, and when we tested it, we noticed there was a slight lag between the audio and the video. We certainly didn't want anybody to have that unpleasant experience. So we worked with that manufacturer, and we came up with a firmware update. I forget if it was their firmware or our firmware, but within a month, that was all fixed. So it now works flawlessly. And that again is just in how they implement the USB. It all should be standards based, but there's slightly different ways to do it. So we want to make sure to work with these manufacturers and make sure that it's a seamless experience for everybody. So when it comes to the benefit statement of this, I think we've talked about a lot of this already, but you can really reduce the cost of your meeting spaces and also radically expand how many meeting spaces have the ability to do this high quality video. It used to be you'd have to have a physical codec in each room. You're talking $5,000, $10,000 a room, and then maybe $1,000 a year to maintain that and keep it under warranty. So that was really limited to a few rooms at all but the largest enterprises. And now you can use any room for any purpose, local collaboration, Teams invite, WebEx, any of those kinds of things. You can just, we've had a lot of customers that will buy a few of these and then they realize how simple they are to implement, and then it tends to grow like wildfire. Because if you've used this, you want to have that flexibility to bring your own laptop and use the meeting room the way you want, but with a really nice camera and audio system. So that tends to lead to more collaboration between teams within a company, and allow people to really feel like they're more like back to work, back at the office, even if there's one or two participants that have to still be from home. It gives the people that flexibility. So I'll talk real quick about warranty for a second, and then we're getting near the end here. We can certainly take some questions if there are any more, but one of the things that we did when we came out with ClickShare Conference was we included what we call Smart Care with it. It used to be an optional thing, but we really wanted to get away from that, having to buy an extended warranty. So all you have to do at this point is when you receive your ClickShare Conference, you connect it to the internet one time. It can even be profound. You guys could do that for your customers. I know I have some government customers that don't want anything on their network at all or can't have anything connected to their networks. They want it to work standalone. So you would, at your office, when you're getting ready to do the installation, just set it up ahead of time, get it registered for them. And when you get it registered, that automatically updates it to give you 5 years of Smart Care coverage for free. So that allows such things as we have what we call XMS Cloud platform, which gives you analytics, and it can show how often the rooms are being used, how content's being shared, all those sorts of things, and as well as changing your warranty from 1 year to 5 year just by registering it on our portal. We give our partners the ability to actually manage that for customers. So if you wanted to have one central database where you can see all the ClickShares that you've deployed and help remind customers that, hey, it's time to update the firmware or this new feature came out. You can have what we call different tenants on that platform. So you can have it by building, by customer, by division, however you want to do it, and set it up so that it's really easy. When you plug in the ClickShare for the first time, it keeps it neat and organized, and you can know who's on the latest firmware and if there's any problems with the devices and they need attention. Also gives you priority access to our help desk and advanced swaps and things like that. So we really like to take care of our customers. And so we encourage everybody to just connect it that one time to get it registered, to get your smart care coverage for free. And the next slide here shows a little bit about what our XMS management platform is. Again, this is free. It's cloud-based, but we realize some of our customers aren't going to want to do cloud. So we do have the ability to do it on premises as well. You can do the on-prem version either as a virtual machine that's completely free. You just download an ISO from our website. And if you're comfortable creating a virtual machine on your network, you do that, and this will connect to all the ClickShares that are networked in and show you all the analytics, and you don't have to touch the cloud at all. For people that aren't interested in making their own VM, we also have a hardware device, so a physical piece of hardware that's a server that you can keep on-prem and doesn't have to connect to the cloud, and will centrally manage all the ClickShares as well. So 3 different options, ultimate flexibility, and everything but the hardware version is free. It's also an enterprise grade solution. I like to talk about this. It's kind of the difference between, Dan, you'd know this well, being in the integration game for a long time. There's sort of professional grade displays, and then there's the least expensive TV you can go to Best Buy and purchase. And the one at Best Buy, especially the lower priced, lower end brands, aren't designed to run 24/7. They don't have the security features built in. They maybe don't have the amount of video resolutions for all kinds of different oddball laptop resolutions, like an ultra widescreen Mac or something like that. The same argument applies here, where there are other wireless presentation solutions out there, but they're mostly designed for home theater, and they're designed around an HDMI connection, which not every laptop has. And they don't offer any of the features we've been talking about here today, as far as allowing you to conference with these devices. So we decided to make ours an enterprise grade solution. We're deployed already in over 60% of the Fortune 500 uses Barco ClickShare, and so that was a demanding exercise to get into a lot of those really large enterprises. So we had to do things such as an ISO 27K certification, which was a really long process throughout our entire production line, where they go through and make sure everything is locked down and secured. There's no way for spyware to get in there. All of our employees, that work on the production line, don't have admin access to their own computers, so they can't install any new software or malware, all those kinds of things like that, as well as the insights and central management dashboard we've already talked about that large enterprises are going to want. Believe it or not, I have some customers that have, we have one very large auto manufacturer that has over 1,000 of these for all their conference rooms, and they didn't want it networked at all. They're dealing with a lot of proprietary information. They wanted it ultra secure. So that poor gentleman that runs that site walks around room to room with a USB stick to update the firmware every quarter, which is fine. That's the way they want to do it. So again, we wanted to be flexible and give people the ability to do that. But certainly, if you can network the devices, it makes it a lot easier to manage them. So we give it to you either way. And that's the content that I had to share. I know there may be a couple other questions, and we're going to do a little raffle here and give one of these away, but certainly
Awesome.
We're here to help. So let me know if any other questions have come in, Dan, or if you have anything else.
Yeah,
we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mike. Have 3 more questions. The first one came in right before you started talking about Smart Care and XMS. So I think you answered it around central management and what tools you have available.
Yep.
So thank you for that. Other 2 questions. Does ClickShare work with, how does it work with guests and visitors as they come into the office and external users?
Okay, that's a great question. That's actually one of our real advantages, I think, over a lot of the other solutions that are out there. Almost everything else that's out there requires you to install some sort of software or go to an IP address on a browser and type in a code that's on the display to connect to that display wirelessly. Most of them actually involve installing software. ClickShare is fantastic for guests because literally everything you need to run the presentation or meeting resides on the button. So as long as your USB ports work, you plug the USB port port in, and it's going to run. It's a Windows recognized device now, so it's just like connecting in a printer for the first time. It's going to go to a Windows database that Microsoft has already vetted for us and pull down the driver if it needs to install it. And then within 7 seconds, it's going to light up and tell you ready to share, and you click and you're on screen. So it doesn't matter if you're a guest or an employee, you can use this system. We recommend that employees, if it's especially if a company deploys a lot of these, that they also install our app and just make that part of their standard Windows build, because the app does give you other features, like I was saying about being able to share, a certain window instead of just your whole screen, or a certain application. And there's all kinds of other features we haven't even touched on yet that are coming soon. So the app is definitely very cool, but we understand not everybody's going to have ability to walk into a meeting room and install software. So we want to give the ability to grab this and plug it in and be ready to go in under a minute.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so
Sure.
Please feel free to put any more questions that you may have in the chat. The last one I have here is asking, in your opinion, what's the leading difference between Barco and the other wireless sharing content competition out there?
Sure. I'd say mostly it's around the flexibility we just talked about. First of all, there's not a lot else out there yet that can do what we've talked about today, which is sharing those USB cameras and audio systems. That's a real differentiator for ClickShare Conference. When it comes to the original ClickShare, I think the advantages are that we can be ultimately flexible. We can use the button. If you're a guest, you don't have to have any software installed. We can plug into any type of display, so it doesn't have to be. There's some solutions out there such as Miracast or Chromecast, where you have to have certain types of TVs, normally consumer, home grade like smart TVs. You can sometimes use like a Miracast. By the way, we support Miracast and Chromecast and iOS sharing as well. So we support all of those. If somebody walked in with an iPhone, you can just as easily as you can share to an Apple TV, you pull up off the bottom of your iPhone, you look for AirPlay devices, and you'll see the ClickShare, and you can share with that from an iPhone. So I think it's flexibility that really differentiates us, plus the fact that it's an enterprise grade solution. It's not something that's just designed to share an Xbox 360 or something like that.
Got it, thank you.
Okay.
And then one attendee
Cool.
was just trying to clear up one more question with
Yeah.
the ClickShare app, that it's on the button. For the older presentation units, you no longer have to load the app.
Correct. Yeah, you used to have to, with the older unit, you used to have to, the first time, run an executable. There's actually a ClickShare.exe that lives on this older button, because this is also USB storage. And so the procedure used to be, if you've never used ClickShare before, you plug it in, you navigate to this, it'll be your D drive or E drive or whatever the next drive is that is on your Windows device, and then you double click on that ClickShare.exe. We don't have to worry about that anymore, because as I was mentioning, we got Windows to validate our drivers. So anything from Windows 7 on up now, whether you plug in the old button or the new button, it's going to be recognized, and you don't have to run that exe.
Perfect, thank you. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's it for the questions.
Great.
It looks like if you took my advice and took the under,
okay,
we went over by a couple minutes here, not too bad. And yeah, we can move to the raffle. Darla, if you want to pick a winner, that'd be great.
Hi guys, thanks for joining. Yeah, I have everyone's name in this mug. All right, so the winner is Vinny Apollone. So thanks for joining, Vinny, and you win.
Congrats, Vinny.
Share. Yeah. And so it's
congrats,
CX30,
Vinny.
Right, Mike? Do you have
Yep.
more details on
Yep.
that?
Yeah, we'll get Vinny's information and make sure that we understand what he wants to need it for. It's the CX30. If for some reason you wanted a different model, we could figure something out. But I think the 30 is the most universal one here, and we can certainly get that sent out to you. What I'll probably do, Dan, is we'll have that sent to you guys first, so you can go ahead and get it set up for them and get it registered on that portal for the first time. And then we're happy to support if there's any questions once you get it. And you need, like I said, we have a lot of videos that walk you through how to set it up for the first time. We also have a dedicated sales engineer down in our US headquarters in Atlanta, so we could get Vinny on a call, or any of your customers on a call with Brian Drake, who has all this set up live in our offices and can do a live demo to show you how ClickShare works in real time and answer any questions you guys have that are technical or setup or otherwise.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you again, Mike. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Darla. Congrats to Vinny. If any questions come up, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or anyone here. Our emails are on the recording and slides that we'll be sending out. following this. And yeah, thank you again, everyone, for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. I appreciate the time too, guys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.